everybody. Welcome to the Real Bible Study. My name is Danielle, and I'm the Bible Study Facilitator. So tonight we're going to be in Genesis 41. So I ask everybody to turn to that. You can read silently while I read aloud. But first, we're going to open with prayer like we always do. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Lord, open our eyes
Lord, open our eyes
so we can see something we've never saw before.
so we can see something we never saw before.
Open our ears
Open our
ears
so we can hear something we've never heard before.
so we can hear something we've never heard before.
And open our hearts
And open our hearts
so we can receive something we've never received before.
so we can receive something we've never received before.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
So okay, so we're in Genesis 41. Is everybody there?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Ready.
All right. At the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing beside the Nile when 7 healthy-looking, well-fed cows came up from the Nile and began to graze among the reeds. After them, seven other cows, sickly and thin, came up from the Nile and stood beside those cows along with the bank of the Nile. There, the sickly, thin cows ate the healthy, well-fed cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. He fell asleep and dreamed a second time. 7 heads of grain, plump and good, came up on one stalk. After them, 7 heads of grain, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 plump full ones. Then Pharaoh woke up, and it was only a dream. When morning came, he was troubled. So he summoned all the magicians of Egypt and all of its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today, I remember my faults." Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and he put me and the chief baker in the custody of the captain of the guards. He and I had dreams on the same night. Each dream had its own meaning. Now, a young Hebrew, a slave of the captain of the guards, was with us there. We told him our dreams. He interpreted our dreams for us, and each had its own interpretation. It turned out just the way he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they quickly brought him from the dungeon. He shaved, changed his clothes, and went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said about you that you can hear a dream and interpret it." "I am not able to," Joseph answered Pharaoh. "It is God who will give Pharaoh his favorable answer." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 well-fed, healthy-looking cows came up from the Nile and grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, weak, very sickly and thin, came up. I've never seen such sickly ones as these in all the land of Egypt. Then the thin, sickly cows ate the first 7 well-fed cows. When they had devoured them, you could not tell that they had devoured them. Their appearance was as bad as it had been before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, coming up on one stalk. After them, 7 heads of grain, withered, thin, and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up. The thin heads of grain swallowed the 7 good ones. I told this to the magicians, but no one can tell me what it means. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams mean the same thing. The 7 thin, sickly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind are 7 years of famine. It is just as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt. After them, 7 years of famine will take place, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten. The famine will devastate the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because of the famine that follows it. For the famine will be very severe. Since the dream was given twice to Pharaoh, it means that the matter has been determined by God and he will carry it out soon. So now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint overseers over the land and take a fifth of the harvest of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. Let them gather all the excess food during these good years that are coming. Under Pharaoh's authority, store the grain in the city so they may preserve it as food. The food will be a reserve for the land during the 7 years of famine that will take place in the land of Egypt. Then the country will not be wiped out by the famine. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants, and he said to them, "Can we find anyone like this, a man who has God's spirit in him?" So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one as discerning and as wise as you are. You will be over my house, and all my people will obey your commands. Only I, as king, will be greater than you." Pharaoh also said to Joseph, "See, I am placing you over all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, clothed him with fine linen garments, and placed a gold chain around his neck. He had Joseph ride in a second chariot, and servants called out before him, "Make way." So he placed him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and no one will be able to raise his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt without your permission." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Saphnath-Paneah and gave him a wife, Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest at On. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Joseph left Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced outstanding harvest. Joseph gathered all the excess food in the land of Egypt during the 7 years and put it in the cities. He put the food in every city from the fields around it. So Joseph stored up grain in such abundance, like the sand of the sea. Then he stopped measuring it because it was beyond measure. 2 sons were born to Joseph before the years of famine arrived. Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest at On, bore them to him. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh and said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and my whole family." And the second son he named Ephraim and said, "God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction." Then the 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph had said, there was famine in every land. There was famine in every land, but in the whole land of Egypt, there was food. When the whole land of Egypt was stricken with famine, the people cried out to Pharaoh for food. Pharaoh told all Egypt, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." Now the famine had spread across the whole region. So Joseph opened up the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Every land came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, for the famine was severe in every land. All right. So let me see. If I had to put a test to this, wait a minute, hold on. Give me 1 second. Somebody else is trying to get on Bible study. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all ready for the title?
Mm-hmm.
The title is I Woke Up Like This. I woke up like this. When you hear the term woke, what do you think of? Anybody, when you hear the term woke, what do you think of?
Being aware.
Being aware, absolutely. Anything else? Okay, I said there are many different definitions. Woke can mean you are awake from a sleep. It can also mean to pay attention. Here lately, though, people are using the word woke to talk about being aware of social and political issues. And I think we can use a little bit of all these definitions and come up with a definition for the real Bible study, Women Today. So for today's women, I'm going to define woke as to having our eyes open to pay attention to things that are affecting us spiritually, financially, emotionally, mentally, and politically. Anybody need me to read it again?
Yes.
All right. So for today's Real Bible Study woman, our definition of woke is going to be having our eyes open to pay attention to things that are affecting us spiritually, financially, emotionally, mentally, and politically. Okay? Who would have thought that on April the 14th, 1975 at 11:55 p.m., a baby girl would be born to Victoria Dunnock and Lamont Newton? And they would name her Danielle Andrea Newton. In the Hebrew, Danielle is a modern feminine name inspired by the name Daniel, which means God is my judge, meaning God is my only judge and nobody else can judge me. For a long time, I didn't know my name meant that. But guess what, y'all? I'm woke now. From the time I can remember, I used to get in trouble in school for talking a lot. I know you can't believe it. I know that's hard for y'all to believe. And I even can remember the teachers writing on the comment section on my report card, talking is disrupting to others. And please work with her on the right time to talk. I heard so many times, she is so loud. She talks too much. Why can't she just sit down and be quiet? Well, ladies, if I could see those teachers today or the people that ask those questions, I would tell them, sorry, not sorry, but I woke up like this, with this great ability and gift to communicate and talk to others. I thought about a lot of times when I didn't embrace my greatness or ran away from my gift because I didn't want to acknowledge that all these things made me me. It took me a long time to be able to be thankful for God waking me up just like this. And now that I'm awoke, I refuse to go back to sleep. Now, this brings me to the text. In Genesis 41, we come across some people who used to be asleep. Now they awoke. Let's dive in. In Genesis 41, who was the first person that has a woke experience?
Pharoah.
Who you say, Asia?
Pharoah.
Yep. After 2 years of Joseph being in prison, Pharaoh, let's write that down, the politician. We're going to use these to define the parts of this lesson. It's going to go back from our definition that I gave us in the beginning. So Pharaoh, who is the politician, has a dream. In the Bible, the number 2 means union, division, and validation. Now we know that God doesn't do anything by accident. So why did God allow Pharaoh, the politician, to have this dream at year 2 of Joseph being in prison? I have to believe that God was going to use this experience to bring people together or to separate some people, or this experience was going to be for some type of validation. My first point, ladies, is there is a waiting period for the time you are to sleep to when you get woke. It takes some time to finally open your eyes and see what is going on around you. And when your eyes are finally open, don't be surprised if you have some addition or some subtraction that has taken place in your life. I want you to write this down. Ask God, what are you trying to validate in or around me during my woke experience? You need me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Ask God, what are you trying to validate in or around me during my woke experience? Are we ready to continue?
Mhm.
Okay. In Genesis 41, 2 and 7, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience? So now we're in 41. We're moving down the verses. So now we are in verses 2 through 7. What would you think is happening? For those that have just joined us, we're in Genesis 41, and we're going to go through the whole chapter. So Genesis 41. So now we are going through verses 2 and 7. What do you think has happened that is contributing to this woke experience? Okay. I said Pharaoh, the politician, had some dreams. Can somebody give me a definition of the word dream? When you think about a dream, how would you define it? Okay. I defined it, well, the dictionary, a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep. Does anybody want me to repeat that? What a dream is? Okay. So Pharaoh, the politician, not only has one dream, but he has two. Now, in our new definition of woke, we know that our eyes need to be open so we can pay attention to what's going on around us spiritually, financially, emotionally, mentally, and politically. So now we see that Pharaoh, the politician, is going through an experience that is affecting his mind or mental status. Have you ever had a dream and when you woke up, you questioned whether you really dreamed what you dreamt, or was it all in your mind?
Mhm.
Okay. That's just what happens to Pharaoh. He had a strange dream which woke him up, and then he went back to sleep. And when he woke up again, he realized, oh, it was a dream. In Genesis 41 and 8, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience? So 41 and 8.
He wanted the dream to be interpreted.
What you say? He got the magicians?
I said he sent for the magicians and the wise men
Okay.
of Egypt.
Okay. So now Pharaoh's spirit is troubled because he didn't had this dream. And he sent for all the magicians and all the wise men, but none of them could interpret his dreams. That brings me to my next point. Your answers don't lie with the ones that look the part or get paid to tell you what you want to hear. Your answer may very well lie with someone you least expect. Someone who don't even look like what you have in your mind that they supposed to look like. That's why I love God. Because we can all come here to the real Bible study and we can learn about the Bible in a setting that doesn't look like what some would say a Bible study should look. And as I sit here in my t-shirt and shorts, I sure don't look like someone people might expect to teach a Bible study. Who, me? It couldn't be. Ladies, write this down. Sometimes you have to see what you can't see until you can see it. So sometimes you have to see what you can't see until you can see it. I had to see myself as this Bible study facilitator. And honestly, some others had to see it for me as well. Because if it wasn't for some people on here, I still wouldn't be teaching a real Bible study. In Genesis 41, 9 through 14, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience? Okay, because it's a long thing, so I don't want to keep us and not get us all the way through it. Joseph is remembered by the cupbearer, and he was awakened, cleaned up, dressed up, and brought to Pharaoh quickly. My next point, ladies, is it's time to wake up, get cleaned up, and get dressed, because God is coming for us quickly. I hear him saying, we have been asleep long enough. You better get up with your bad selves and dust yourselves off, because your time is coming. And like Fabulous say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And in Genesis 41, 15 through 16, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience? So now we're moving down. We're in 15 through 16.
Joseph told Joseph about the dream that he couldn't interpret.
Okay. So this is important. Pharaoh, the politician, remember he's a politician, asked Joseph, the prisoner, if he could interpret his dreams, which is mental. And Joseph responds, it was not in me, but God will give Pharaoh the answer in peace. That's the spiritual. So Pharaoh begins to tell Joseph his dream. But look at the difference now, ladies. We go from Joseph telling others about his dream, and they got mad and threw him in a pit, to now somebody pulling him up out that pit, and for Joseph to hear their dreams. Joseph went to sleep a dreamer, but woke up a dream interpreter. Well, ladies, here goes my next point. It's okay to go to sleep, because even the caterpillar had to go to sleep to become a butterfly. You gotta go to sleep sometimes to become something different. In Genesis 41, 17 through 24, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience?
Pharoah told him what his dream was about.
Absolutely. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream. This did it for me, because at this very moment, I realized that all things are working together for Joseph's good. It took 2 years of Joseph being in jail for a crime he didn't commit, for Pharaoh, the politician, to have this dream, which is mental, which leads me to believe that God felt like Joseph still needed some work done in him. Joseph needed to be humble so that he could appreciate and understand his gift. Joseph didn't get released early on good behavior. Everything had to line up to work out for good. And the cupbearer finally remembered Joseph at the right time, when Pharaoh had that dream and was searching high and low, because at this point, he wanted this dream interpreted. He really didn't care who interpreted it. So, yep, even a prisoner has gifts. And he didn't even think twice about calling for someone to bring Joseph to him. My next point, everything has to line up perfectly, lady, for things to work. We all have to be awoken at the right time. So in Genesis 41, 25 and 32, what is the next thing that we encounter in this woke experience? So he didn't told him the dream. So now what has to happen?
Joseph told him about the dream.
Joseph interprets the dream. Yes. So Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream. We know the dream means that there will be 7 years of abundance, followed by another 7 years of famine. And the famine will be so bad that the good years will be forgotten. Now, what I know about the number 7, which means completion, means that the 7 years of abundance completed that part of the experience. And then the 7 years of famine completed another part of the experience. But isn't it crazy that the Bible says that the famine was so bad that all the good was forgotten?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that how we do? It only takes one bad day or bad thing to forget all the good that has happened to us in the past. The fact that Pharaoh had the dream twice was to confirm that this was really going to happen. So in Genesis 41, 33 to 36, what happens next in this woke experience?
He puts Joseph in charge of the land.
Yeah, okay, we'll take that. So I said Joseph gives his advice to Pharaoh, the politician. Joseph, the prisoner, who is also spiritual, saw the problem in advance from interpreting the dream, which is mental. He started putting goals and vision in place, which is the emotional part of being a leader. And this is the emotional part of our definition. This part is going to involve feelings or emotions because he had to do what was needed to be done for the betterment of the land. He couldn't just pick people that he wanted to pick. He had to pick the right people. He knew the right people needed to be put in leadership roles, and they had to understand the vision. Someone had to be appointed to ensure everything got done, and somebody had to keep the books to make sure everything was being accounted for. That's the financial part. Oh, wow, y'all. Look at Joseph now, ladies. He went to sleep as a prisoner, but woke up a project manager. My next point is you can go to sleep as one thing, but wake up something totally different. In Genesis 41, 37 through 38, what hope is next in this woke experience? And before we do that, is there anything that anybody want to discuss? Because before we continue, anything that touched your heart prior to 37, before we go through and see what that those verses say? Is there anything that you guys felt like really stuck out to y'all in this chapter about this whole woke experience? Okay. So what happens next in this woke experience? And that's in 41, 37 through 38. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And he said to them, can we find anyone like this? A man who has God's spirit inside of him? So I said, Pharaoh, the politician, sees the presence of God's spirit, which is spiritual, in Joseph. Pharaoh tried everything to figure out his dreams, which are mental. He had the priests, the magicians, and the holy men, but he didn't have a Joseph, who was the man with a spirit of God. Pharaoh could see God's spirit in Joseph's message, his character, his knowledge, his wisdom, and his humility. Pharaoh went to sleep confused, y'all, but he woke up with our whole definition. Pharaoh's eyes are open now, and he can pay attention to things that are affecting him spiritually, financially, emotionally, mentally, and politically. Why do you think that? After all this time, why do you think he finally gets it? I'm going to read it back. Pharaoh, the politician, sees the presence of God's spirit, spiritual, inside of Joseph. Pharaoh tried everything to figure out his dreams, which are mental. He had priests, magicians, and holy men, but he didn't have a Joseph, who was a man with a spirit of God. So now Pharaoh went to sleep confused, but he woke up with our whole definition. His eyes are now open. He can pay attention to things around him, things that affect him spiritually, financially, emotionally, mentally, and politically. Why?
Because he understands what's going on now, like what's about to come.
Absolutely. And because he's had this experience with Joseph. Nowhere before did we ever find out that that Pharaoh was a spiritual man or a religious man. We never read anything about that. So now he's come in contact and he's coming to someone who has the spirit of God in him. So that only could do more, that only could do something but to change Pharaoh. And so now Pharaoh has been changed. And I ain't saying he's going to be all good, but for this very moment, he said, you know what? Joseph is the real deal, Holyfield. So in Genesis 41, y'all, 39 to 41, what happens next in this woke experience?
He gave Joseph greater position.
I like it. That's exactly what happens. Joseph gets promoted to second in command over all the land in Egypt. Joseph went to sleep in charge in the prison, but woke up second in charge of Pharaoh's land. He would be over Pharaoh's house. He would rule all the people of Egypt, and he would have authority over all the land of Egypt. Can you imagine going to sleep a prisoner, and then the next day you wake up and you got this big old promotion, and you got all this stuff that you're in charge of? My God, I can't only imagine how Joseph felt. So now, y'all, we're in Genesis 41, 42 through 44. What happens next in this woke experience?
He changed his garments.
You better go ahead. You better go ahead. Joseph gets some gifts of high status. Pharaoh took his signet ring off of his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He got some new clothes made of fine linen. He got a gold chain to put around his neck, and he rode in the second chariot. Pharaoh said to him, I am Pharaoh, and no one will be able to raise his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt without your permission. You mean to tell me Joseph went to sleep in rags, but woke up in riches? Ladies, don't worry about what your clothes look like. Because if Joseph can get blessed from wearing a prison suit to wearing designer suits, then surely God can turn your rags into riches as well. In Genesis 41 and 45, what happens next in this woke experience?
Pharaoh changed Joseph's name.
Got his name changed. He gets a new name and a wife. His new name is Zaphenath-Paneah. Now, y'all might want to write this down. Some Jewish legends say that each letter of Joseph's Egyptian name meant something. And when you put the letters together, they mean seer, redeemer, prophet, supporter, interpreter of dreams, clever, discreet, and wise. Sounds like Joseph's name also defines our definition, because surely he is paying attention and he's spiritual. He's definitely better off financially. He has a wife, so I'm sure he feels better emotionally and mentally. He's second in command, so now he has political power. My God, wait till God put your name out there and people get to see what it means. If you had to define your name today, what would the definition of your name be? For me, I said, before I found out that mine said only God could judge, but I will always feel like my name was associated with being determined or destined. Does anybody else have a definition that they like to share about their name? If not, that's something that you can do in your own personal time for your own homework. So, ladies, I said, look at this. He went to sleep single and he woke up married. He went to sleep single. And then he woke up married. In Genesis 41, 46 through 49, what happens next in this woke experience? So I said everything that Joseph interpreted in that dream begins to happen. Joseph was 30 years old when he started working for Pharaoh. He was only 17 years old when he was sold into slavery by his brothers. So now 13 years later, he's at the top of the top. My God, Joseph went to sleep a boy, but woke up a man. Anybody else see that? Over these 17 years, it developed him. He was thrown into the pit as a boy, but he coming out as a man, y'all. So in Genesis 41, 50 and 50 to 52, what happens next in this woke experience?
He had 2 sons.
He had 2 sons, yes. He named his first son Manasseh, which translates to mean forgetfulness, so that Joseph could forget all his previous pain. His second son he named Ephraim, which means fruitfulness, because God made Joseph fruitful in Egypt. So Joseph went to sleep in pain, but woke up in plenty. So ladies, remember, you might go to sleep not in the best mood or in pain, but they always say joy comes in the morning. In Genesis 41, 53 through 57, what happens next in this woke experience?
The 7 years of came to an end. The bondage came to an end.
Yeah, the 7 years of the famine begins. So it said what happens next is just what Joseph said. The famine begins. Thank God they stored up the grain, because the famine came just as Joseph said it would. So people from all over came to buy grain from Egypt. Joseph went to sleep a dreamer, and he woke up on top. So that's the end of the chapter. Before I tie it all together, anything that y'all want to discuss, or do y'all want me to tie it together and then we'll come back?
Tie together, then we come back.
Okay, I know some of y'all probably thinking y'all know where I'm going to go with the tie in, but I promise you, it's not. I'm so excited. Wow, guys, if you don't know by now, I love her. So my ladies, my question I want to leave you with tonight is, how are you going to wake up? Are you going to be a woman that when she wakes up and her feet hit the floor, the devil says, oh no, she's up? Are you going to be a noise maker, or are you going to be a change maker? And are you going to be angry about what life throws at you, or are you going to hit that ball right out of the park? Or you going to put that love on top? What did we learn? Besides that, Beyonce is my favorite artist. What else did we learn? Nobody learned anything.
I learned that dreams come true. I learned that when I dream at night, sometimes my dreams come true sometimes.
I
Because
love
I
it.
would have never thought that I would be right here where I am today.
You woke up like this.
And I woke up. I mean, when I tell you I woke up, I woke up.
All right. What else did anybody learn? Did we learn anything about how Joseph, did we see how his transition went, how he grew, how he had to go through this season in his life to grow, to become this person that can interpret these dreams? Because remember, he went from being a dreamer in our previous chapters when he told his brothers his dreams. They got mad at him and threw him in a pit. And then he got sold into slavery. And now we find him in a place where he's no longer sharing his dreams, but other people are sharing dreams with him. Did anybody pick up on that? It took me to read this a couple times to get that. I never really picked up on that he went from being a dreamer to be a dream interpreter. What else did anybody learn?
For me, I felt like even in moments of hardship, you still are required to do what God calls you to do. Yes. When you do those things, God will elevate you in places that you never thought possible. But you literally have to trust him through it all.
Yes, definitely. I love that one. I love that. Let me write that down because that was good. Hold on. Give that one to me again. What so I can write that one down. You got me stuttering. What
I'm sorry, I'm over here like I'm literally like I really needed this because dealing with stuff at work. Oh. But just listening, I realized that even in moments of hardship, I still have to do what God required me to do. Because as I do what he requires me to do, then he will take me to my next. I've literally been in this job for 7 years. Literally, September makes 7 years, and I've battled through some stuff. But every moment that I battle, I still taught, I still loved, I still showed God's grace, and he elevated me each time. Even when I'm ready to say it's time for me to go, God still puts me in position. So I'm learning to trust him, even in hardship.
So you went to sleep a certain way.
I woke up. And I woke
you woke up something different. My God, I love it. So even in hardship, I have to do what God has called me to do. And I am
required to do what God has called me to do.
Okay, I'm required. I'm sorry. Let me get it right. I'm required. I want to get it right.
Because the thing is, when we understand our requirement, we're still going to do it regardless. We're going to do it because God has literally put this on our life to do it. Some things we do because we just know we're handy in certain areas. But when God gives us gifts, and we operate our gifting, he blesses us for that. Even when we don't want to do it, he still blesses us.
Yes.
Amen. Amen, sis. Amen.
And thank you, Dee, because let me help this out a little bit. Because what happens too, Dee, when we know it's a requirement and we still don't want to do it.
Exactly. And we feel like we are literally like, God, do I literally have, why me? Like, why me? But then when we walk in it, but literally when you walk in it and you see how you develop and grow, you're helping others, but God is literally developing you while you're helping others. You went past this point, all right, you passed this test. Now I need to elevate you because you got to do something else.
I hear that hot stuff.
So just in the steps. We talked about this when we was on the stair, when we was like, life for me ain't been
on the staircase.
Yeah, you are literally walking
on every step.
On every step. Sometimes you got to take that extra step. Sometimes you got to lift your leg up a little higher and skip this one part. And then sometimes you got to keep walking. And when you get tired, you know how you get that extra boost. That ain't nothing but God just carrying you over. Because you're literally doing what you're supposed to do.
You better go ahead.
No, that's right.
Can I share something? Let me tell y'all, Dee Dee is my sister of the leaf. I smoke cigars with her. Let me tell y'all something. When I first, I'm tearing up.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Dee Dee, it was something about her spirit. I love Dee Dee. I love Dee. When she's just a good person. And Dee Dee, I thank you for being on here with me. Girl, what I tell you, I knew it was something about you when I first met you.
You did. And the day I was supposed to be running, but I was tired. And I told my husband, I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to sit still. And I was sitting on the couch and I said, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Let me jump on. Not knowing that God was setting this word up just for me to sit still and listen. So when I go back to work tomorrow, I am covered and ready.
Amen.
Diddy got me crying. Because
My
this has
God.
been a day.
Yes,
This
my
has been a
God.
Sorry,
day.
y'all.
But
Let me tell you
Jackson,
something. I
when
love
she said
God.
something about the job, oh my God. Like,
I'm
Listen,
trying to
Oh my
tell
God.
you.
listen, God has carried me through so much. So I love this moment just to sit and, digest his word again, because we read it, we understand it. But it's different when you have to apply it. So it's now you putting it on like a coat.
Yeah. And we learned about the coat. Yes, Dee Dee, yes. Thank you for joining us and helping us bring this to a close, y'all.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you.
No, honey, it ain't me, it's the Lord. People
Yes,
like, how you do it? Girl, it's a gift. The Lord
But it's
gave
the thing,
it to
it's the fact that you are being sensitive to what God told you to do. So may God bless you tenfold for being obedient.
Thank you. I received that in the name of Jesus. But I give God all the credit for it, because it's just a gift that he gave me, and I appreciate it. I was telling everybody, a lot of people in here, that I was just so excited about Bible study tonight, just to teach this about how we wake up. We go to sleep one way, but we wake up in a whole different person. And I was so excited to teach this lesson, because I know for me, I've gone to sleep many a times a certain way and woke up sometimes a different way, and not always for the better. If we're gonna be honest, because we on a real Bible study, I always didn't wake up better. Sometimes I woke up worse than what I was when I went to sleep, but by God's grace, because if we looked at Pharaoh and his story, he got better when he embraced the spirit that was inside of Joseph. See, sometimes God got to see the spirit in you to even help others. Because sometimes the lesson ain't even for us. Sometimes we have to go through it so God can see us go through it, so people can, not God, so people can see how we go through it, so they can be like, you know what, if she can go through it and she can do it, let me ask her how she do it. That'll bring them closer to God.
be a walking testimony.
So sometimes it ain't even, we don't even go through for our own self. Sometimes, a lot of times it's for others. So I thank you. Anybody else learned something tonight? My God. My God, I love this. I love being woke, because we've been asleep for so long. So I love being woke. I love it.
I think another thing, Danielle, is when you let the God show in you, is you don't even always know when it's showing in you. Your spirit, his spirit works through you, and people see that. So because of his spirit working in you, you don't have to sometimes fight your own battles. Like she said with work, it's challenging at work, it's challenging in church, it's challenging in family, but when you really, like she said, sit still and just have that conversation and, just talk like we on the real Bible study, keep it real with God and tell him what the real is or what you really going through. He definitely does direct your steps in how you need to do, because he will close your mouth and sit you down. And you like, that's not what I wanted to do, but he will do that. And you will find yourself come out better every time. And then you got to say, oh, thank you, God. Because, it wasn't supposed to be my mouth or my actions, but it was supposed to be you.
Because sometimes I be really wanting to cuss people out.
I do. But he just shut this mouth right on up.
My God.
And make me turn his music on.
And I
say,
remember,
shut up.
And not to cut you off, I remember I had an issue with blessing people. And God told me, you don't get to choose who I bless. Oh.
You done told me that one too many times. You done told me that one too many times. I don't get that chance.
It's mine. It's mine. What you mean I don't get to choose who I give it to? And God said it ain't yours. If I gave it to you, it's mine. And you don't get to choose who I told you to give it to. Because how many times did I give you something you ain't deserve? How many times did I put you in a place you wasn't supposed to be in, or you felt like you weren't qualified to be in? Because how many times have you heard me say, I sure ain't feel qualified? to be teaching no Bible study.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like she said, when God tell you to do something, he requires you to do it. Your life ain't right until you do it. Think about it. You start saying, you know what? I'ma still try to do it my way. And it still don't work. And it don't be until you do it his way that it all works.
Yeah. And one other thing, when I learned with Joseph, because I was like, "Oh, Joseph, you went through," but in the midst of him going through, he stayed humble. That had to be the God in him, that he stayed humble, because he could have acted out any kind of way in that prison.
He acted out.
And he did not act out. And we didn't read anything where he acted out in the prison. We always read that it was something in the way that he was being helpful. Even when he went to interpret the dream for Pharaoh, he didn't say, "I'm going to tell you what it means." He said, "I can't tell you what it means, but I can tell you what God has for you to know." So
think about this too,
him in the
Sherry.
forefront.
My God, he ain't even just go in front of Pharaoh any old kind of way either.
No, he went in the spirit with the mindset that I'm going to let it be all about God, and whatever he wants you to know, that's what you're going to know.
He could have went with an attitude, and he didn't.
He
said, "Oh well, I'm going to go up here, and I'm gonna be humble, and I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna clean myself up, and I'm gonna come before him looking like I deserve to come before you, Pharaoh."
Yeah.
And what I so loved about this story, because as we know, the story of Joseph isn't over, but as what I so loved about Joseph is the transformation that happened with Joseph.
Yes.
That right there spoke to my spirit, because sometimes we got, like she said, sometimes you gotta sit still, and sometimes you gotta sit in your mess. Because even though he was in that jail for a crime he didn't commit, because he got thrown into a pit by his brothers that was jealous of him, it was still something in him that God still felt like needed to be worked on. So sometimes we just have to sit still and listen and say, God, what are you trying to teach me in this?
Yeah.
Because
one other thing, wasn't it something? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's just the fact that when you sit in God's presence, it changes your countenance.
Yep.
It literally changes your mental, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual countenance. And you literally start to see life differently. Even if life ain't panning out for you right away, you literally see life differently. That's why it becomes easier for you to be able to speak into somebody's life or to minister to your family when they do you dirty. Because I know. But it's just like God will literally put you in this again, a still moment, and you can literally watch his masterpiece unfold. And then where do I fit? How do you need me to speak? I'm only going to move when you tell me to move. I'm tired, but I'm only going to move when you tell me to move, because you're literally changing my countenance. And it comes with the change of the clothes. It's coming with the change of the thing. It comes with the changing of your look, because you dwell in that space and God just changes the atmosphere for you.
Absolutely. He changes the atmosphere around you instead of you having to go in and adapt to that atmosphere.
Yes.
The atmosphere begins to conform to you. And I love that about God. Shari, what else did you learn?
Oh, I was going to say, wasn't it something how he put his, as we would say, his enemies at his footstool? Because his brothers,
we didn't get there yet, Shari.
No. I'm just saying, no. In the midst of this chapter, where he was, we didn't read about him saying anything bad about his brothers. He just didn't understand why he got thrown in the pit. And it was like, for us, I know today, if you try to do me dirty, a family member try to do me dirty, I'm trying to contemplate how I can get you back.
And I'm gonna tell everybody I know what you did.
And I'm gonna tell them exactly.
And
but we never heard that he said anything bad about his brothers in here. He never talked about them. He just in his own thought process, I would think that he was just saying, what did I do that my brothers don't want to love me the way I want to love them, or be around them the way I want to be around them? But he never even, said anything bad, and he didn't even confront them when they threw him in the pit. He never even confronted and said, "What's going on? Why? What are you doing?"
They pulled him out to sell him. They ain't have no quiet. He ain't even. It seemed like he was in such shock that he didn't even ask him, "Wait a minute, why y'all throw me in there?" Maybe he thought at first it was a joke.
Right.
They kidding. They gonna get me out.
They not
They
gonna
my
leave
brother.
you
They
here.
not gonna leave
Right.
me here.
Right.
Possible.
Right.
But we all do know, like I said, all things work together for good. And as the story
Yeah.
continues, because some of us have read ahead, y'all told me y'all have read
Yes,
ahead.
Lord.
So some of us have read
Mhm.
ahead. So we will only see where the Lord going to take us next week.
Yeah.
And what we
Yeah.
going to learn, because now, you know, last week we was looking at our life and we saw what we saw.
Look at that.
Might not have liked it.
Mhm.
And now this week we woke up like this.
Mhm.
This is who we are. What we going to be next week?
Oh, that's right.
All I can do, I mean, I'm waiting on the Lord to give it to me. He ain't gave it to me yet. So what we going to do next? Because you changing me, Lord. And like some of you guys have said, since becoming a Bible study, you've changed. Think about it. You came to Bible study one way, went to sleep. You waking up waking up a whole different person. Even me. I've gone to sleep. God has truly changed my focus on Bible study, the way I teach Bible study. Sometimes I question myself because of some things that I feel like maybe I teach it that way, or because I don't want to offend anybody. And then people be like, just teach it the way God gave it to you. So I find myself teaching it the way God gave it to me, and it's always received well. And so even this week when I told my husband what the lesson was, he was like, it had to be. And I was like, the Lord gave it to me, because he did. Now I did change the song. I ain't gonna lie, but the Lord gave it to me. And so I just I like the real Bible study, because I like the fact that we can take the Bible and we can relate it to where we are today, and we can still learn, and we can still grow, and we can still become who God has called us to be on a level that we need to get it. Not in a disrespectful way or anything like that. So I don't want to keep everybody, because, you know, I try to hold out hour because I don't want people to be over the time. So before we leave, is there anything else anybody want to share? What they learned?
Love the real Bible study.
Oh, thank you. I
I
thank
don't
you. I
just
love
like the
all
real
y'all.
Bible study.
I love that y'all
love
come
them.
every week. Y'all the
Yeah,
reasons
you
why
know
I still do it.
preacher. You know how preacher like ILOBEEE.
I'm so glad that you guys enjoy it. Y'all the reasons why I do it. And just keep me prayed up, so that I can continue to have continue to have these new and amazing ideas and thoughts, so I can teach you ladies, and we can have fun, and we can discuss, and we can learn, because y'all are why I do it. And I'm so thankful. And you know I love to keep it real with y'all. So anything else before we go? All right. Well, thank y'all all for coming. See y'all next week, same time, same location. Oh, before we leave, I do want to say something. When we close out Genesis, when we get to Genesis 50, we'll be done Genesis, and before we move into Exodus, I've been asked that we can consolidate or do a review of the whole book of Genesis. So what I would like to do is, if you guys want, I would like to host Bible study for the people that come, not everybody in the world, but the core people. I would like to host Bible study that Thursday at my house. It would be like a potluck. Everybody bring something, and we'll have in-person Bible study to just do the review for Genesis. So we have, I think, because this was 1 week, so I think we should have maybe 4 more weeks. And I'll get the exact date out, and I'll send it in an email. But we can't invite nobody else, because my husband don't have a fit. So I told him it's a core 16, because my house ain't that big. So he said fine. So if everybody is great, we'll do that, and then we'll just have a potluck. Everybody bring something, and we're gonna sit and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna do the review of Genesis for those of us that can make it. If not, I'll still do a Zoom. So we'll have a Zoom link, and we'll that way, for those that can't make it, can still be with us via Zoom. How that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Anything else before we leave?
But God, that's
But
it.
God. All right. Well, have a good week, everybody. See you guys next
Bye,
week.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Bye.